This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
We're doing Nyneave tracking down Grendel today. So it's a two-part chapter, well, two chapters. The second one's pretty short with a little bit of Nyneave and Rand, and the first one is Sherlock Nyneave.
Yeah, Nyneave's detective agency.
Yeah. Really feels like this could be a spin-off, right? Like, she was a healer. Now she's a detective. Nyneave Almira, Lan Mandragoran.
No, I mean, the way that she does, like, gumshoe detective work, but also, like, heals a child on the way is just, yeah. It's very, very, we've noticed this repeatedly with the Sanderson stuff in this book. Like, he writes these little vignettes that could almost be an entirely self-contained story. Just modularly hook on to the main story. This feels like another one of those where he wrote a scene that, like, it almost has enough world building to not need any other context. It's
right.
The complete arc of her beginning, middle, end is good enough, you know?
And I feel like if you pay attention to the way Sanderson talks about writing and the way he writes, like, you can almost see his outline in these chapters. And I think that's, to me, doing the podcast the way we're doing it very much exposes the bones of how a story is written. And with Jordan, it was obvious that he was weaving a pattern, that he would write one story and then he'd write another story on top of that. And then he'd pile a third story on top of that and he'd weave them all together in a way that led to this incredibly complex pattern. And I feel like Sanderson has the outlines of the characters and is just painting them in solid colors. And you can see sort of the bones and the way it works. And like all the characters are there and they're all moving in the same way and they're all doing the same things. But with Jordan, you could see the tug of the weave pulling on them in different ways. And it was complex in a way that I think was just, it's different. And I think as Sanderson's gotten older, his writing has gotten more complex and there's more of that layering. But certainly here, you know, there's an outline and I can see it.
Yeah, it's definitely a much younger, less experienced writer. Like, that's very obvious. There's just a certain new car smell to how obvious it is, you know?
New word smell, yeah.
Yeah, but also, I kind of like how he writes Nyneave.
I think he does a great job on Nyneave. I was going to say that. I think it's very, very good. Yeah, and I do say, like, it's a simpler story, but that doesn't mean it's not a very good story, right? Like,
yeah, complexity is not necessarily quality.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't mean that as a criticism necessarily, although it's obviously coming off as one. But just like the style is different, and that's where I'm seeing the differences, is in the sort of the big chunkiness of the story that Sanderson writes versus the like intricate weave that Jordan writes.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very Sanderson chapter, but also I feel like it's in many ways the best one yet in this book. Like, it clicks better than the other ones. And I really like how he writes Nyneave. I always found Jordan's depictions of Nyneave to be kind of harsh and clunky, and like it just wasn't the easiest character for him to write, I think. Sure.
Yeah, I like the rounder edges on Nyneave, especially at this stage in her life. Like that is a good evolution for her to be at, right? She doesn't have to maintain that angry edge all the time just to channel. She still gets angry, but then she calms back down from it.
Yeah, and I think that Sanderson looked up to Nyneave a lot. Because like he writes her in this very like understanding, your heart is in the right place and always has been kind of way. And she's just way more easy to relate to. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older. But I thought he did an incredibly good job with such a core character. Like the other characters, like, you know, Matt especially, it's been very like, oh God, this is so harsh. And then Nyneave comes along and I was like, oh no, I like this. I like this change. This is actually better.
Well, and I think the weird thing with Nyneave and Matt is I think they are amazing characters for the same reason. And I think he got it with Nyneave and completely missed it with Matt. I think he got the hypocrisy with Nyneave. He writes the hypocrisy with Nyneave and it keeps her funny. It keeps her fresh. And he just takes Matt at face value. You know, and a lot of people do that. They take him at face value. They don't look at what he's doing in the same way. And I think that Sanderson was fooled by that character, and that's why he doesn't write him quite as well. He didn't realize that this is a noble character at heart.
Right. And I totally agree with you, Fuji. Nyneave is, yes, perhaps the only major character that doesn't backtrack. to an earlier part of their growth arc. Nyneave actually feels like he's picking up the baton right where Jordan left it.
Exactly. Yeah, the only one of the Emmons Field 5, really, who gets to advance forward.
Yeah. Or starts not going backwards. Like, this does not feel like a book 5 Nyneave. This feels like a book 12 Nyneave.
Yes, because she's no longer tied to her anger, right? She's moved beyond that, and she's accepted her powers, and she's accepted she's Aes Sedai, and all of those sorts of things. And it's almost refreshing to be like, okay. Like, he could have done that with Perrin so easily, to have him accept that he's the leadership, right? We've moved beyond that struggle. We didn't have to rehash it again. And that's where I feel like Perrin was a miss and Nyneave was a hit.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. She does just enough recap for you to see the connection between the last time Jordan wrote her and this, but like, yeah, it feels like a nice upgrade, which, it's kind of weird to be like, oh, I can tell it's changed. I can tell it's not Jordan writing it, and I like it better. Like, it's kind of funny to have that moment where it's like, this is one of the first moments where I really am like, I'm kind of glad that some other author came in to finish this instead of letting Jordan just continue to get lost in his own world.
And I'll say about Nyneave too, is like, ever since Rand came and picked her up for the cleansing, she's kind of just been another hanger-on without any real autonomy of her own. And it's like he kind of didn't know what to do with her. She was always supposed to be the one who cleansed the source with him. But then what do I do with her after that? Like, he didn't really know. And it was, and she struggled to find something to do, or because she should be protective, but Rand was falling apart, and you feel like she should be taking action. And like, I feel like this is her finally doing something. And it's like, okay, about time. Come on, Nyneave. Right, her whole thoughts about Moraine. Like, we should actually get into the chapter. Do you want to read us in?
Yeah.
I feel like we've been talking about this chapter for a while and not actually started it.
Okay. We're gonna start chapter 32, Rivers of Shadow, and the symbol is the snake in the wheel because we got bubbles of evil-ish, kinda, sorta.
God, I have no idea why the snake in the wheel. I mean, that's just plot stuff, the weaving. It's sort of the wheel, like coincidence, and the wheel weaves and patterns tugging on other people.
You know what symbol I would have chosen?
What?
The staff. We haven't had the staff logo since freaking Moraine left the series, right? I mean, like, since book 5. Like, we haven't seen the staff logo in so long, but it's both the wisdom doing the healing and thinking about her Two Rivers days, and also how she thinks about Moraine. I'm gonna say, for purposes of publishing this, it's the staff logo. We're just going to headcanon it's the staff logo. All right, I'm going to read this in. Nyneave stood on the broad wall around Bandar Eban, looking down over the darkened city. The wall was on the inland side of the city, but Bandar Eban was built on a slope, so she could see out over it, past the city, toward the ocean beyond. The night fog rolled in across the waters, hanging above a crisp black mirror sea. It seemed like a reflection of the clouds high above. Those clouds glowed with a phantom pearl light, cast by a moon she could not see. The fog did not reach the city. It rarely did. It hung over the ocean, churning, like the ghost of a forest fire, stopped by some unseen barrier. She could still feel the storm to the north. It called on her to ride through the streets, shouting warning, flee to the cellars, store up food, for a disaster will strike. Unfortunately, packing earth or reinforcing walls would not help against this tempest. It was of a different sort entirely. I'll just cut it there. It goes on. She's having very cool poetic thoughts about things. It's cool. It's nice writing.
What's the title? Rivers of Shadow. What does that refer to?
It comes up way later in the description of the way the light plays over. I think I highlighted it. It's like way later in the chapter, very random. But at one point, she's got a torch, and it's casting shadows, and that is that's where the title of the chapter comes from. We'll get to it. I did highlight it. I can't find it now.
I mean, it's got to be a bit metaphorical as well, right? Like that she's following like a river of shadows to the.
Oh, here it is. I found it.
Source of the corruption.
It's when she goes to the mansion grounds right before she picks up the soldiers to go on the mission. It's literally the line before that. Nyneave's lantern cast strange shadows on the grass, and its light shone through the trees, trained and trimmed in the shapes of fanciful animals. The shadows moved in concert with her lantern, the phantom shapes lengthening and merging with the greater blackness of the night around her, like rivers of shadow.
I mean, I think there's got to be two meanings to that, right? I mean...
No, I don't.
No?
Honestly.
Okay.
As we get to it, maybe you'll find something, but I looked at that for like 5 minutes, just like, I don't see it.
I just think as a title, it's just the fact that she's following the shadow. Like, she's trying to track it down. That's all. I think they're trying to go for some double meaning there.
Sure. That works.
As a title.
Yeah.
It's a stretch, I know.
Why not? Why not? So she's up here on the wall thinking about how she's literally one of the most powerful people in the known world, as far as she knows, between being like one of the most powerful channeler, or the most powerful channeler with the White Tower's authority behind her and married to Lan. She's like, I'm literally so powerful. So powerful.
Totally. So powerful.
Totally so powerful.
I'm like a queen and I said and like I love this line. He might not have a kingdom, but Lan was a king. And I just want to be like, Yas, king. Like her just being like, my boyfriend is a king. Yeah.
Also, she thinks so highly of herself that she thinks that Cadsuane blames her for her exile. And like not once anywhere in Cadsuane or Rand's calculations about this has Nyneave's name come up once.
No.
Neither of them have thought about her at all with respect to this. And meanwhile, Nyneave's over here like, surely Cadsuane blames me for her exile. Like, Cadsuane literally does not.
No. There's this moment where Cadsuane give her like a look and she's like, Cadsuane thinks this. And it's like, I bet Cadsuane barely even saw you. Like,
no, it's even funnier than that. Cadsuane actually does give her a respectful nod because she's the only person worth paying attention to. And Nyneave's like, there's no way that Cadsuane respects me. Cadsuane's way too much of an arrogant ass for that. And it's like, no, she literally does.
She did give you a little respectful nod, right?
She actually thinks you're the only Aes Sedai worth interacting with right now.
Because of her like a willingness to punch people in the face and say inappropriate things and like not kowtow to the like White Tower rules that she's supposed to. Like that's what Cadsuane respects.
Exactly. She doesn't respect Nyneave's youth, but she does respect Nyneave's general attitude. Yeah, Nyneave just cannot accept it. So it's really funny but all the other Aes Sedai are annoying. And Cadsuane and Nyneave are agreed that all the other Aes Sedai are annoying. So, yes, Cadsuane respects violence. Exactly. Yeah. I hate it, but it's true.
It's true. There's in the opening reading, you said the fog did not reach the city. It hung over the ocean. Why wouldn't the fog reach the city? Is that just air currents? The fact that you have heat coming off the land and cold air coming off the sea? I don't understand that. Or is that something power related? Like
I don't know, because it's not the procession yet. It's not the ghost procession.
Elevation, the city's on the hill and the
it really it depends on the temperature of the ocean versus the temperature of the land and the topography and like how the winds are coming onshore or not. Like fog does a lot of things, right? The San Francisco Bay Area is famous for being foggy as hell.
Right.
Like, but then this is saying, the fog rarely reaches the city. Like not all ports are the same, but yeah, probably it's very cold air out over the ocean, and then it's warm air from on land blowing out to sea. So then the fog is forming out over the ocean rather than blowing in. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that there is magic about to happen. Or not magic, but, the ghost procession. Maybe it's the opening ripples of the ghost procession.
Maybe somehow, yeah. Like, I was trying to make it related, and I agree. I think it's just weather patterns.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're out there to see the ghosts, right? This is something that's happening every night since Rand entered the city, right? Because now Rand he's distorting the pattern. And so I think it's breaking a little bit easier around him. We're seeing more of these bad events and, like he causes the tea to go bad when he's in a bad mood. He's making bad things happen around him now because he's touched the Dark Ones. He's like, in a lot of ways, his connection to the Dark One is causing bad stuff to happen, is how I feel. Like somehow his probability is the dragon has been tainted by his touch of the Dark One.
Right. Yeah. He's very much becoming kind of a demigod with like cosmic effects in his general vicinity. And because he's all dark one-ified right now, you know, Forsaken Rand, yeah, all those ripple effects are kind of bad. And there's, yeah, a thinning in the pattern so ghosts can come through. But also there's literally the bubbles of evil where people burst into flame. And not the Cybermen.
No, not the Cybermen are coming through. Nyneave, stop them. That's great. Oh, and the little blue box. No, okay.
It's a Turon Grial of some sort.
It's bigger on the inside.
Was it a vacuole?
Lets you travel through time. That would make sense that the TARDIS was an encapsulated vacuole that would travel between, you know, attached to the pattern in different places and times.
Yeah. My one true religion is that all fantasy worlds actually exist in one universe and somehow their cosmologies all mesh. Every story I've ever read, they all exist in the same universe.
They do, ours. Yeah, the comments about how there's no food growing anymore, which is, yeah, the Dark One's touch, the Ghost's Dark One's touch. Like, this is all bad stuff from the Dark One. He's really screwing people over.
Yeah. I also noticed that Rand is proclaiming that the last battle will be starting soon.
Mm-hmm.
We're a far cry from the boy who wanted to hide the fact that he was the Dragon Reborn. Now he's telling just the general public, prepare for Armageddon.
Well, he really, I think at this point, believes that Land's first attack will be the beginning of the last battle.
Right. He knows there's a ticking down clock on the start of the battle. He's got a rough idea of how long it will take Land to initiate. Yeah, that makes sense.
And when you're gathering armies from multiple nations, you kind of have to be like, okay, peak time to start, like, gather the troops, everybody, we're gonna start heading in that direction. Like, herding large groups of people involves a lot of announcing what you're going to do ahead of time.
It's true. Crowds are incredibly stupid. They're very slow to absorb information and to respond. So you have to be very simple, very direct, and repetitious when you want a crowd to respond.
Yeah, and yeah, again, Nyneave's seen lots of 3 credible reports of people who had insects burrowing out of their skin, someone who's burning, you know, spontaneous combustion, basically, and burning alive.
But it turned to charcoal without burning any of their bed linens.
Right.
Like, that's some weird physics. That's not just too much hair gel and open wiring in a house. That's, like, actually weird.
Oh, come on, it's cigarettes and alcoholism, we know.
There was a very specific spate of spontaneous combustion suddenly being a thing in the early days of electricity that had a lot to do with a lot of flammable products and uninsulated wiring. I remember reading about this a bit ago. It's a very specific period where suddenly there was a bunch of spontaneous combustions and then electrical insulation was figured out and the rate went down. So
I thought the rate went down as smoking rates went down because people would basically be drinking and smoking and fall asleep with a cigarette. Generally overweight people would fall asleep with a cigarette in your hands and then you sort of catch on fire.
I mean, I'm sure that happened as well, but there was a very specific thing near the introduction of electricity when people just didn't quite realize how dangerous of a thing it was they were inviting into their homes.
Got it.
And a lot of very, very volatile, like hair products and like fireproofing, not fireproofing, the opposite of fireproofing, like just really flammable treatments on various like upholsteries and hair products. And we did some really dumb stuff about 100 years ago.
Which is crazy because they had open flames because that's like they had candles and stuff like that. So electricity was more dangerous than open flame in creating these kinds of problems.
Sparks and people putting ever more volatile gases into their general environment. It was just sort of the two lines were going to intersect in a spike in quote unquote spontaneous combustions.
Listen, just because I had beans last night doesn't mean I'm putting ever more spontaneous gases into my environment. Anyway is right.
So we rehash the why does fixing our demonic politics fix anything? Or why does it matter that Rand cares about the election of things? And Nyneave does make a good argument that, like, the Shan-Chan, even aside from just, like, the general world, but, like, the Shan-Chan specifically, are a good reason to try to shore up the world that he's going to leave behind, which, oof.
And what if Grendel really was here, right? Like, she is here. So you should probably, there's like been a Forsaken in every town, you know, and this is the last place and all the markers, even though it's so funny because it feels like Grendel had very little to do with the Chaos in Eredamon. It feels like it just fell apart kind of on its own.
I know, right? Well, she was giving out a lot of orders for the Merchant Council to carry out. That's
true. And wasn't she giving out merchants to, who's the military commander?
Rodo Eteralda.
Oh, yeah, Eteralda. So he was just like, that's when he sort of became traitors, when he picked one of the orders to follow and stopped getting the rest.
Right. But, like, she was sending orders to lots of different people in the political and military spheres. So, like, she is responsible for a lot of the chaos, but not in a way that we've seen evidence of on the page. It's just kind of like, oh, yeah, and Eredamon's in chaos. Like,
right, because most likely because of Grendel.
We can't really pick apart how she was doing that. It's just, oh, yeah, she was doing nefarious things, like, headcanon at will. So, whatever.
So here's where we get the look between Codswain and Nyneave that we talked about earlier. That nod of Codswain's couldn't possibly have been out of respect. Codswain was far too self-righteous and arrogant for that.
So an instance of Sanderson having a character be wrong,
right?
But she's wrong in a very precisely inverse to correct way that basically tells you exactly what is happening and leaves no room for interpretation. So.
Right. Well done. I appreciate that.
She's wrong. And then she thinks about Rand and how he's changed a whole lot. Stubborn folks back in the Two Rivers hadn't had Rand's strangely menacing aura. I believe that.
She talks about how the room darkened when he threatened Codswain, and that's something that we've seen as a theme. Everyone around him seems to see that darkening out of the corner of their eyes, which is, again, just the Dark One's touch on him, right? That's Forsaken Rand right there.
Right, that's the overpowering presence that's really making regular old Rand hide and not be present, is this literal atmosphere of dark gloom and nihilism that's like literally oozing out of the walls whenever he looks at you too hard. And then she hears a child cough.
Right. So we get this little side story about her healing this girl, which, as far as I can tell,
it's a whole side quest.
It's just a little side quest. Like, there's nothing really related to the rest of the story. It's just like trying to show Nyneave's character that she's the kind of person who will stop on her way to do something important to heal a child.
I think that's part of why I like this section so much. Like, there's a lot I like about the Nyneave coverage here, but the part where she takes the time, pages worth of time, to go find a child and heal them, I'm like, I feel like we should have seen her doing this sort of shit before. Right. This feels like an overdue Nyneave scene, actually.
And I had canon that this is kind of stuff she does all the time. We just haven't seen it on the page.
Sure. Yeah.
She doesn't act like, oh my God, this is the first time I've ever stopped to heal a child. She's like, oh my God, another fucking one. Okay, come on. Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah, you should have brought him to me 8 days ago. Yeah, he's sick. Yeah, you idiot. Make sure you get extra food. Don't fucking sell it. And the fact that she has to say that, and the fact that she knows not to tell them not to sell it, means she's done this a bunch of times before and people have sold the food.
Well, I'm guessing that was more because she knows she's in a refugee city.
Sure.
I thought it had more to do with that than her prior experience with people. But yeah, either way, this is what we expected the Yellows to be doing the whole time, right?
Yes. Yes.
This is like the way that she is acting.
This is Yellow Ajah 101. Yeah.
Like you're saying, like she's been doing this forever. She's been doing this the whole books. Presumably the whole books. There's a trail of children that she's been healing. And we know for a fact that the Yellow Ajah has not been doing that. We can headcanon that Nyneave has been doing that, no problem. We know for a fact that the Yellow Ajah has not. And like that's all that we ever expected of the Yellow Ajah is like, yeah, you should have known. Because like she even says, like, you should have brought him to me days ago. And I'm like, how would they have known that you can just go to an Aes Sedai and get healing? The Yellow Aes Sedai have been hiding from them for centuries.
Right.
Like, in what world has the outreach been done necessary for you to assume that they would know to come to you? Only you know that they could come to you. I wanted to
stand up for the dad on that one and be like, how was I supposed to know that? Hey, like, where's your flyers? Where's your, like... propaganda? Where's your that's ridiculous. How?
Where's your news crier on the corner, like singing your praises? Like, Where's your sponsored by the Yellow Aja like health clinics?
No, and
like
what is the Domani attitude towards Aes Sedai, right? It's not the most favorable.
Right. She thinks that they're supposed to be more pragmatic.
Yeah.
But even that, it's like, why? Why do we think that? In what evidence have we seen in the world building to make us think that that's true, Nyneave? Like, they're not Amadisia, obviously, but like, maybe it's because they have a lot of Windfinder traffic or something. I don't know. But I think it's very cute that we spend all this page time on a character and a family that has no bearing on the plot.
Yeah.
Right? This child doesn't come back to save anyone. The father doesn't heroically sacrifice himself as a pseudo-warder. The mother doesn't join the White Tower. Like, nothing happens. Right? There's no payoff for this other than a child didn't die. Which, like, that is payoff, right? That is payoff. But we're so used to going through these books being like, what's the bigger payoff? And it's just kind of refreshing almost to be like, oh, you could just heal someone for the sake of healing them. It doesn't have to lead to a clue. It could just be for its own sake.
So I have a question for you. The line, Nyneave took the cup and mixed the something and feverbane in it. What's the something there for you? Should be the first sentence of a paragraph.
ACEM?
Yeah.
Acum?
Yeah.
ASM?
I Googled it. Doesn't look like anything to me.
Is it a hard C? Is it a hard S or a soft when it's just one letter like that? I don't know how English works. I can't even remember how they say it in the audiobooks. It's not coming to mind.
Because, yeah, the dictionary is bringing up ace, which is not correct.
I think it's probably acum. I think that's how she says it in the book.
Yeah.
I feel like the phrase is, acum and feverbane. Not asum. Asum would be weird. Acum. But I have no idea what that is. Maybe his cat stepped on the keyboard and he decided that was a good word.
Yeah, I mean, it just,
Does Sanderson have a cat?
It doesn't seem, acum meditation, I don't know, like, there's no, Google doesn't give me anything that could be an herb or anything like it, and I don't see any other reference to acum anywhere in the book. Let's see if it pops up anywhere.
Weird.
No, it's part of placement, but no, that's that's the only other place it turns up. So, yeah, I couldn't find any clues about what the acum would be, and that just seems like a weird word. So we're just going with an herb, a random herb you made up.
It's a plant.
It's a plant.
So yeah, Nynaeve's doing a conscious combo of herbs and healing. She's not using the herbs as a crutch. She's using them in concert with the weaving.
She's using them to treat the fatigue that healing causes.
Right.
Right, and she's actually using them as like pain medication after surgery, right? Or something to help you recover after surgery.
Right, yeah. It kind of reminds me of like holistic medicine when it's not falling off into woo space, like actual logical holistic medicine where it's like, yeah, you should probably like eat well in addition to taking your pharmacology drugs. You should probably like alter your diet in specific ways in addition to just taking a pill. Like, it's more than one thing. I feel like the Aes Sedai are very much like, no, there is a pill for that. End of story. And Nynaeve's like, well, but maybe going on like a walk would be a good part of the treatment regime too.
Which is funny because she's like, no, there's a pill for that.
Well,
That's
I
like
mean,
what the medication is.
Yeah, no, for sure. The analogy is a little weak, but
no, I get what you're saying.
Just the way that she's going against institutional, knowledge. Just being like, no, just like, yeah.
Like there can be other things that are healthy for you other than medication.
Right. Maybe even to the point of like doing an herbal tea. That might be a good thing to do. At least your placebo effect will be good. Where in her case, herbal medicine clearly actually helps. But
well, it's like the migraine medication has caffeine in it because it's like, yeah, the caffeine helps. Like, it's kind of crazy how much caffeine can make a difference when your head starts to hurt.
Right. Well, I mean, fundamental truism of all medicine is that it started as herbal medication and we worked outward from there. Like, once upon a time, that's all we had. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And so she starts thinking about like how she's going to handle Rand. And I love this. As much as it galled her to admit it, bullying him was just not going to work. Finally, somebody said it. Finally, somebody fucking says it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I highlighted that and, like, underlined it. I was like, please, why have you not realized this? You and Codswain have just tried bullying over and over and over again. And guess what? It's not going to work.
What I dislike is that she thinks that bullying should work.
Yeah.
And that bullying is a tool she will continue to go back to for normal people with normal problems. It's just that this one time for Rand, she's going to have to think outside the box. Don't love that. But yes.
And then she's like, how did Moraine get him to listen to her? Oh, she paid attention to his wants and needs and listened to him and worked with him rather than bullying him. I don't know if I could ever try that, but maybe it's worth it. It's just like, I'm ready to stab myself. Like, which is great Nyneave writing.
Yes, it's so Nyneave. Again, like, I love this take on Nyneave because I'm like, that's Nyneave. That's definitely Nyneave. I can recognize the Nyneave all over that.
Did she perhaps see her simply as another one of those irrelevant manipulators? Yes, because that's what you are. The hypocrisy, right? Rand did have so many people trying to control him. That must frustrate him. And they made Nynaeve's job a lot harder since she was the one that he actually needed to listen to.
It's such good Nynaeve hypocrisy.
Good. Yeah, love that. Really good.
The line that makes me mad is where she's like, well, maybe Rand just liked what Moraine was doing because it flattered him. And I'm like, you know better than that, Nynaeve. You know that Rand and Moraine both are better than that. That's not what was going on. You know that. I know that. Just stop being Matt.
Yeah, that's that jacket is too fancy for you, Rand. Like, stop putting on airs vibe.
Yeah, and I'm just like, again, good Nynaeve writing. Makes me annoyed. Very good Nynaeve writing.
And the way she is like, okay, Rand needs to act like the mayor, and the mayor needs to be loved. The wisdom punishes people, and there she's thinking about the White Tower, right? The White Tower is the one who meets out the punishment and keeps people in bounds. But Rand should be loved as king.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I believe that leaders need to be loved and adored while the police arm takes all the heat. I don't know that that's the dynamic I would subscribe to in an ideal world, but at least she is consistent across the books, and I do appreciate consistency.
Yes. And I get it. You don't want to have a hated leader, right? You don't want people to hate the leader, right? Like but you do that not by distracting them with love and then punching them with the police arm. You do that by having someone be a good leader.
Right. Being loved doesn't mean you're a good leader. It means you have a good propaganda arm.
Yeah, well, something about our current political system makes me think you and I might be a little cynical.
I have no idea what you're talking about at all. I am entirely talking about what's happening in these books. 100%. No analogies to any events, current or past.
So Nyneave runs into is basically on her mission, right?
Yeah. Nyneave is thinking about how she needs to get Rand to trust her, to listen to her, and to understand that love is an important attribute for a leader to cultivate. And this somehow all coalesces into a plan to figure out how to find Grandal. And so she launches off on it.
That's where she was heading when she stopped to heal the kid.
No, because it says, but how to show that to Rand, she couldn't force him. She needed to get him to listen to her another way. A plan began to take root in her head. By the time she reached the mansion, she had an idea of what to do. She did the kid thing on the way back from seeing the fog to go to the mansion, which is where everyone's staying.
Got it.
And by the time she side quests because she doesn't really have anything better to do. And then as she gets back to the mansion, she's like, wait a second, I have an idea. Grabs some people from the mansion and heads back out to do things.
I mixed up the order of things. I thought she encountered the girl on her way out to find Grendel.
No.
Yeah, I see. I thank you for clarifying.
It's kind of a confusing order of events. I had to flip back and forth and try to sort out where things were happening. Because at first she has a plan and she goes stomping off to get someone, but she actually goes stomping off within the mansion. And that's where the first encounter takes place. Getting the docent Laral, that's actually all at the mansion.
Okay.
I kind of thought it was another location, and it's not. Laral takes her to another location. But this mansion is...
Never follow a hippie to a second location.
I know. But this mansion is where everything's happening. For some reason, I always thought this was a yet another location. It's not. It's literally the mansion. Anyhow, I don't know how many people were confused about that. But if anyone was confused about that, there you go. And if you weren't, then now you know that I have bad reading comprehension.
So she grabs a bunch of off-duty soldiers, poor bastards, were just hanging out with their buddies. Probably just got off duty and were like finishing up a game of cards before they went home to the...
Like 5 minutes. They had like 5 minutes. And she's like, lazy sods, come with me.
They're like, God damn it. I was going to go home early, but fine.
Yeah. But I mean, they end up being a pretty good sport about it. They like catch the vibe of what she's doing and help her with the mission. Like they seem fine with it.
No,
Hopefully they get,
good.
a pat on the head from their supervisor for helping her or something.
Well, and they're like helping out Aes Sedai, right? It's like kind of having a celebrity come in and be like, you, help me out. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, this will be fun. Yeah.
Right.
Or dangerous. One or the other.
Also, the lady does shoot fireballs.
Yeah.
Oh, so here we go with the Rivers of Shadow line. This is the paragraph where she comes up to the gates and before she grabs the soldiers. That's the River of Shadow line.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I think you might be right about like she gets an idea and then there's these rivers of shadow and she gets drawn into a much more plot-heavy experience than, saving this child who, is useful to the extent that she is a human being that has a life. Or the child, he is a human being that has a life. But, yeah, now she has a plot. Like a plot forwarding plot to do.
And so she's following the thread. She's following a river. She's following this, like, trying to figure out how this person died and who was in control of them and where they were and who ended up killing this person. Because it's just, she's like, this is too much of a coincidence, which is so funny in the world of Ta'Veren. But she's like, it's too much of a coincidence that this boy died the day before the Dragon Reborn wanted to see him. Somebody took action and I will track down that person.
Again, Nyneave going full detective agency. Like, she is a private eye and she is on the case. These clues don't line up. She's got her murder board out. She's got strings and markers and she's doing the whole bit. And she figures that if you follow who runs the place rather than who's in charge of the place, like Millicere owns everything, right? Nyneave's like, no. I don't want who owns the business. I don't even want the regional manager. I want the floor manager. That's who I want to talk to. That's who knows what's happening. Sure enough, that person is quite easily intimidated into giving the correct information without fluff because they're just a working person. They don't have a lot of like political intrigue to engage in. It's just a housekeeper being like, here's the address. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Why'd you wake me up in the middle of the night? I'm still tired.
Right. Like, she did nothing wrong, right? She just has the information Nyneave needs, and that makes it a much easier interrogation than going after someone who actually is going to get prosecuted.
I thought it was an interesting line here when they were talking about, you're aware Aes Sedai don't lie, and Nyneave thinks to herself, the Oath Rod is only a formality. The Two Rivers folk need no ter'angreal to make them honest. And I wanted to sort of say the difference between being honest and not telling a lie are huge. And Nyneave lies all the time, but she's very honest.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like we've seen this move before from Aes Sedai, making those two separate statements and then letting people draw their own conclusions.
Oh, yeah. No, she's really good with the Aes Sedai statements here, for sure.
Well, and it's just like, I feel like we've literally seen this exact exchange from other Aes Sedai. Like, this is Aes Sedai 101. It's like, you are aware that Aes Sedai do not lie. Okay, like, let's establish that. Like, it's like the good cop, bad cop of Aes Sedai interrogations. It's like that. I don't know. So yeah, then we learned that the torturer lives at his place of business, which is not creepy at all.
When you're really into your work, you just make a pallet in the front office, the back office, and sleep there all the time.
In the Gulls district. He chooses to live in the Gull district 24/7. Okay.
'Cause it stinks. I mean, I guess if you don't, you just get used to it. You don't want to go in and out.
I suppose that's true, like air conditioning in hot environments. Yeah.
If you just get used to the stench, you never have to you only have to get used to it once if you never leave.
Pro tip, don't be a torturer and then you won't need to get used to the stench.
I got my hobbies.
Just like.
So they go to a dungeon, which is a dungeon in every sense of the word.
Yeah, not the fun kind of dungeon.
No.
Like the worst kind of dungeon. And it's hidden inside the false front of a candle maker's shop, which is genuinely being run as a candle maker's shop. curb the apprentice is making candles. It's a proper running front. But sure enough, it's easy to realize that it is, in fact, a front.
Yeah. Nyneave was stirring up trouble. Sometimes to see what was at the bottom of a cloudy rain barrel, you needed to stir the water to bring up what was at the bottom. They're just like, I like that analogy of just reaching into the muck and stirring it up just to see what's going on down there. Whereas Rand's kind of just looking down from the top of the barrel is like king. She's like, I'm going to stir it up.
Yeah, and that's so true to Nyneave as a person. That's genuinely how she's moved through the entire plot. It's like, well, what if I just ran in swinging? Then what? We'll figure it out after, which is, again, very Matt-like. Now, what if I just hit the people who I dislike and then we sort out the rest after?
It helps that they both carry a big stick. Matt literally, Nyneave metaphorically.
She used to literally carry a big stick, and that's why that will be the symbol for this chapter, for this episode.
She thinks about how she hasn't heard from Egwene or the others because she doesn't have a dream Terran anymore. She gave it up when she went to the Rebels' tower, and she can't dream walk without a Terran. So Nyneave has just been... That's the other reason why she's been a little isolated, right? She sort of felt like a Rand adjunct because she's been totally out of contact with the rest of the plot. Whereas for a long time, they all met in the Terran together.
Right. Yeah, that was a real fail, not taking a dream radio.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now she's got to wait for Egwene to like scream into her dreams.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I like the way that she breaks into this place with her gang of soldiers. The way she places the ward against eavesdropping around the door, and then I was like, all right, kick the door in, but it's like basically a silencer, like on the door kicking maneuver. Like you can really see the Sanderson like, ooh, what if I actually like metagamed how the rules of channeling work? And it's like, all right, that is pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that was very D&D. I like that.
It's a good way to sneak up on the people because then they can't hear the door crashing open because they're like, oh yeah, why wouldn't suspect the door being broken open? Because of course you're going to hear that.
And then they go in and they jail or they grab the three guys, right? The jailer and his two apprentices, and they're being annoying, and she says this great line: "Don't provoke me. It's already far too late at night for reasonable people to be awake." Just like, that's a great way to start your intimidation with these people, to just be like, look, I am already in a bad mood because it is after midnight right now.
Even though it's her fault.
Well, yeah.
She's the one who got up and woke everybody up and says we're doing this.
Yeah, for sure. Because she was out watching the ghost parade.
Yeah.
Right? Like that only comes at midnight. But like it's a great way to startle someone awake and then say, I'm not reasonable, because it is in fact 1 a.m. So cooperate. And she rolls a 20 on her intimidation check.
And so they tell her about the trapdoor into the dungeon, right? She figures out that the two apprentices aren't apprentices. They're just jailers.
Yeah, one of the soldiers, Triben, points it out. He's like, these are not apprentices. I know what apprentices look like. This is no, they're not it. And
so, but the actual apprentice, right? So the apprentice is the one who's doing all the work, right? He's he's also the one who's poisoning. Same person. Which seems weird that I guess Grendel gave him enough ability to make candles. Pretty automaton-like.
I mean, they're probably really shitty candles.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real, they've probably been dropping in quality ever since this whole situation started.
It's like having a robot make your candles, and they keep messing up, but keep doing the same thing over and over again.
You seen those like bread dough kneading robots?
Yeah.
I'm imagining he makes candles kind of like that.
That's technically a candle, but you didn't like allow for any mistakes or movement or variation whatsoever. You just did the exact same movements over and over and over again until you had something that resembled a candle.
Yeah.
And he's probably asleep when he's not working, because that's like he's asleep when they come in. I mean, it's late at night, but still, I imagine he does a lot of like when he shuts down, essentially, he doesn't do anything in his private time.
Right, yeah, he runs for 18 hours a day and then shuts down for the other 6, and then lather, rinse, repeat. And yeah, they snag him. He's also there, and they grab him, and they're just like, oh, it's just a child, whatever, it's fine. And he tries to run away at the end of the chapter, and they like grab him because, for whatever reason, he realizes that he needs to escape to maintain his orders. But for now, he's still pretending.
Oh, no, I thought he tried to scramble out the front door after you went up the stairs. So I thought he tries to run away like in the middle. Did he try and run away twice?
No. He runs away once.
Yeah, okay.
But at this point, they just have like apprehended him just in his blankets. He wasn't trying to run away yet. Now he's just sitting there going, I don't know what's going on. So yeah, Nyneave basically promises the jailers that if they talk to her, she will make sure that they don't get punished for killing the man or whatever. She's like, I give you amnesty for whatever you tell me. Which she doesn't really like promising amnesty to these people, but also it's like she's on extremely thin ice. So that makes sense to offer to get what she wants.
Right. And she's just trying to get they're kind of just doing their job, even though they're really terrible people who've done really terrible things. It is their job to do those things. And she's not there to stop them. She's there to track down Grendel.
Right. That's the thing, is that they're doing what Rand wants them to be doing. Proving that they're torturers isn't the point. So it's easy to promise you won't be punished for having been being torturers, because that was already on the table from the get-go. So then they're pretty free with their information. She doesn't have to deal with a lot of lying, but she thinks she is, right? She has this like many times back and forth with this Jorgen guy where she's like, well, did you kill him this way? Did you kill him that way? Did you let him die this way? Did you let him die that way? And Jorgen's like, no, I take pride in my work. I have standards. I have procedures. And sometimes people just die and I don't have an explanation. And that was this situation. And like, she does not believe him. But after several go-arounds, she's like, man, he's really like annoyed. Like, it's like a point of pride for him that like, this is not supposed to have happened. Like, he's more annoyed about you not believing him than he is worried about the consequences of why the fuck you're here. Like, shit. So for her, the trail's going cold, right? She's about to give up the way Rand was going to give up. She tried so hard, but like Jorgen didn't kill him. And so she doesn't know where to go from there.
I like the line, look, it's not the type of prisoner you kill anyway. Like,
right,
not only,
right.
like, why wouldn't he? Well, not only did I not kill him, but I didn't have any reason to kill him. It would be stupid for me to kill him.
Right, exactly. And then he also talks about how the man would not
give
up
compulsion.
The information that he had. He's like, I know how to torture information out of people. This man held on like no one has ever held on before, like magic was in his brain or something crazy like that. And Nyneave's like,
well, yeah. And then she's like, oh, is that why you killed him? He's like, no, God damn it.
Yeah. That part is pretty funny.
That is pretty funny.
Like his frustration, like I know he's a torturer and a terrible person and like a man died, but like it is funny how he's just like, oh my God, will you please believe me?
It kind of reminds me of someone who's a masseuse trying to convince someone they don't do happy endings. Like, no, I would never do that. That would tarnish my reputation. Why would you accuse me of that? Stop it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I would lose my license. Like, I would, of course not.
But no, yeah, it is very much like, look, there's a professional code of ethics. And like, I will be stripped of my license and never allowed to practice again. And in this guy's profession, get killed probably.
Right. They guarantee I will never practice again by making sure I don't breathe again.
Right. This is like a mafia thing. Like they have rules. Like just because you think that we're all a bunch of lawless criminals doesn't mean we're actually lawless amongst ourselves. We actually still have rules. So now Nyneave does the most Matt thing she could possibly do. She stops trying. And she randomly, casually, almost accidentally stumbles right into the information that she needs.
Which is she goes and heals the woman and realizes not only is she being deprived of food, she's not unhealthy because she's in a dungeon. She's unhealthy because she's being poisoned.
Right. Nyneave just as a by the by, because, she healed that child. She's like, well, I'm not going to leave the prisoner without at least a brief health overview. And then she sees poison, which is, the last thing she would expect. And suddenly everything comes together. Mm-hmm. And when she yells back up the stairs saying, wait, come back, that's when the kid tries to take off. Like, I don't know how, but somehow like that lets his little tripwire brain routines like know that like the jig is up. You have to get out of here.
There is twice then he runs away, because in the beginning he says he was asleep under the blankets over there, tried to scramble out the front door after you went up the stairs, and they caught him.
Oh.
So in the beginning he does try to scramble away as soon as she comes in. And then again, once she realizes, she's like, who prepared the food? And then he tries to escape again.
As has been established, I have terrible reading comprehension.
That's why there's two of us, because
Truly.
if we can both catch 80% of what happens, as long as that 20% doesn't overlap a whole bunch, we can usually figure it out. And then we've got these wonderful people here with us live to catch us when neither one of us can figure it out, which is a percentage of the time.
We'll go with that. It is a percentage.
A percentage. I do not want to say what percentage.
Okay, so yeah, he did try to get away twice. He's just trying to get away constantly. So it must be that when the other people come up the stairs, the guards are just distracted enough that the kid is like, I can make another break for it.
Yeah. Well, and I think he's also realizes he's caught, because she goes, who prepares the food? And he's like, oh shit, that's me. And runs. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got the programming in there at least to run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. An apprentice we found amongst the refugees a few months back. Quite a lucky find. Our last apprentice ran off on us, and this one was already trained.
I'm guessing Grendel killed the last apprentice and replaced a compelled one. And put him
ran
into place.
Off.
Yeah.
No. Oh, so that's the thing, too, is that the chandler's shop is not a new thing. That's been the front for a long time. But yeah, how providential.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grendel definitely providentialed that other apprentice, like, right off the cliff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, child runs out the door. Nynaeve's like, grab that child. 4 men body tackle said child in the muddy street at 1:30 in the morning. And Nynaeve's like, good job. That was an excellent move on your part. Thank you.
And then we have a scene break, and Nynaeve brings the kid to Rand in the next chapter.
Yeah, then we switch chapters to chapter 33, a conversation with the dragon, probably 40 minutes later after she's brought the entourage back up to the palace and summoned Rand. And then we open scene with the chapter logo being the dragon on Rand saying, this had better be important because I was finally asleep for the first time in like a month. So what are we doing?
And it is. I mean, he figures out where Grendel is with this. Like, Nynaeve brings him the boy with the information that he needs.
Yeah. And Nynaeve is just looking at him going like, the man seemed almost an interpretation of the Rand she'd once known, like a statue carved from rock to look like him, but exaggerated in heroic lines. Like, he's very, very LTT in this whole chapter. Just the way he interacts with her, the way he holds himself. He's really leaning on the LTT part of himself to stay cognizant through this.
Yeah, she tries to prod him into getting, his normal reactions, his normal, like, back and forth of, like, well, don't get all haughty on me. I spanked your bottom. And he's like, mm-hmm. And just no reaction. And it's just like, that just doesn't matter to him anymore. Because he's more LTT than he is Rand at this point.
Yeah, deeply so. Deeply so. And Min is here in this whole scene, like in a robe, drinking tea, like watching everything, but she doesn't interact at all. Nynaeve thinks about her a lot, but she doesn't actually do anything.
Doesn't she like fall asleep because she's exhausted from staying up late, like reading books?
Yeah, she falls asleep on the bench, kind of like, curled up. Because, yeah, she is studying as long into the night as Rand is up doing politics and stuff. And yeah, it's an hour of watching Nynaeve stare intently at this child while Rand stares intently into the middle distance. I can see why she falls asleep.
One thing I don't think we talk about a lot is how much this is a precursor to Nynaeve actually healing the madness in the Ashaman. Because this is kind of the first time she figures out how to heal compulsion. And the madness is, what she says is, oh, this is a different kind of compulsion. I know how to heal that. I can get these spikes out of their brain. And it's described the same way as these spikes, the same way that Rand's black compulsion is described in his brain.
Yeah, no, this is very directly how she gets the idea for that healing later. And I remember when she does it later, she's like, ooh, I might lobotomize this man. Oh, well, because like she remembers what happens here. Right.
And I do love that, like, the madness that men get is just basically the Dark One's compulsion from that he, like, it's the same thing that just builds up over time from the Dark One's taint.
I do really like that. The idea that the madness is not like, I don't know, just a spanner rattling around in like in the engine of their minds. It's like the Dark One is like puppeting them and like messing with them. Like I like the idea of that intentionality that makes it even more sinister of an effect.
You touch the Dark One touches you right back.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So Nyneave reports that there's compulsion in his head. He was the one who did the poisoning. And that Rand's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's actually a good clue because, like, Grandal uses compulsion a lot. And if this is really intense compulsion, that points to it being something she did.
Right. And he's like, this might be such a great discovery. It's great enough to make me forget how you obtained it, meaning going behind his back and commandeering people and just going totally rogue.
Which is, again, that's Forsaken level threat, right? Like,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I will forgive you. Well, what would you have done if you didn't forgive her? Would you punish her? Would there be like this level of like Forsaken level punishing your minions because they don't do things the way you say they're supposed to? Right? That leads to bad outcomes and minions who don't take initiative the way Nyneave did.
Right. Yeah, it's very like Rand being punitive to your allies for no reason other than that they didn't ask permission is deeply the opposite direction you want to be going. I mean, she was thinking just earlier about how a leader needs to be loved and not feared. And like, this is some fear-based leadership, Rand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then he does that thing that he did to Codswain. Do you think if I simply said the word, your heart would stop beating? I'm like, reusing that bullshit? Come on. But like it is. He is essentially giving in to the bad part of the pattern that lets him do things like stop somebody's heart. Like that would be bad of him. Evil of him.
Yeah. I did think it was a little bit of a cheap shot to recycle what he used on Cadswain on this child just to prove that Grandal's compulsion was in his head. I'm like, at least get some new material.
Right. Yeah. I didn't like this. I didn't like that line very much. I was like, you could have cut that out.
Yeah, I liked the idea that Rand can deliberately push on the child's mind so hard that he can prove there's compulsion there. Like, I liked that, but a different line would have been appreciated to do that. Like, do you believe that something else impossible that could also happen? You know, that like that flower will suddenly burst into flame and then it does. Something. I don't know. But recycling the line that he used on Cadswain, because this child did nothing like what Cadswain did. This child doesn't deserve that. Like, he deserves some originality, Rand. If you're going to terrorize him, he deserves an original line.
But I think the important thing that Sanderson is trying to convey here is that when he's doing that, the tea turns bitter in Nynaeve's hand. That he is actively...
Min's.
And Min's. Yeah. He's actively causing bad things to happen and causing the pattern to corrupt around him when he uses that kind of influence.
Yeah, no, I just wish he had deigned to come up with a new line to do that with. But no, I do like the part where he both makes Curb freak out and proves that there's compulsion, and also, sours or stalifies, makes the tea go stale on the side. Just like, you can't be in his presence without things warping.
I missed Min's tea going stale. I don't see that anywhere.
Oh, yeah, there's...
Oh, there it is. Min walked over to sit beside him. She was regarding her tea with a grimace. Apparently hers had spoiled as suddenly as Nynaeve's had. Nice. Yeah. So Rand gives Nynaeve the clue she needs to unravel compulsion and to undo it for the first time.
Which I'm surprised it worked, given that it is his male understanding of the power. Usually those kinds of mechanics don't translate across the gender divide, but...
I feel like it's like, either way you're making fire. Think of it the way unraveling the gateway, where you pull on a thread and then another thread. I bet that would work the same way for both.
Sure, yeah.
I'm thinking on that level of mechanics, right? There's the weaving... How the weaves come together is different, but like some basic things about the fact that you're weaving threads is the same for both genders.
Sure, that makes sense. Especially when it comes to undoing a thing, it's always less complicated than putting it together.
Right. And it's just like you invert, you cancel out, right? So I'm not exactly sure what you need to cancel out, but that's how I do it. You cancel out what's there.
Right. Like there's a really fundamental first principle that applies to whatever context. All right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And yeah, Rand kind of mansplains at her and she gets really annoyed by it. And it's just such a Nyneave thing because Rand is not trying to be annoying. But Nynaeve is just like, don't patronize me. because, you know, he does say like, oh, I'm sure you're clever enough to do that. Because, you know, he is LTT right here. It's a very like, he's speaking from the vantage of a 400-year-old PhD. And she's like, you did not even graduate community college, sir. Right? Like, but he's speaking as LTT. So he's not trying to be condescending. It's just like, you know, you're a new age eyes to die, but you're clever. You'll figure it out.
And I love this description, right? Because I think it's so important later. She could see it now, a complex web made from lines of spirit, air, and water. It was horrible. Looking at it with her mind's eye, crisscrossing the youth's brain, bits of the weave touching here and there like tiny hooks jutting deep into the brain itself.
Yeah.
And the way, like, we see Rand's compulsion described that way and just coated with gold. It's like a black mass that he coats with the gold, and that's what Veins of Gold does.
Yeah. And yeah, she's really worried that it's going to go badly for this kid because it is such a delicate brain surgery kind of thing. But she also knows that if she backs out at this point, Rand will not stop there. This is too tantalizing of a clue. So really, if she wants to get the trust that she initiated this whole thing for, she's going to have to hope that she doesn't lobotomize this poor child. And unfortunately, she does.
Well, and she doesn't even know that's a risk, right? She's like, oh, yeah, I will heal. Yeah, I will do my best to heal this. This is something wrong. I will remove it, right?
Yeah, she's worried she's going to kill him. She's actually not worried she's going to lobotomize him. She's just worried she'll straight up kill him. And it's so tragic how she's doing it and it works. And she's like, this feels right. This feels good. I'm putting the world back the way it should be. This is why I went into medicine in the first place. And then a page later, it's like, yeah, you freed him to be a vegetable because that's what Grandal left for you to recover. Sorry.
Of a vein, right? Like the dagger has to come out, but that action kills the patient.
Yeah, it is kind of that. And like, and again, you know, Grandal killed him, right?
Yes.
Grandal took away any potential for there to be recovery for this person. Like,
she put the knife in.
Yeah, she positioned the knife so that way there was no way to pull it out without, severing the main vein and just making it all go away. Like, and Nyneave, you know, and she does heal the kid and put the world back the way it should be in the sense that he can now die as himself, right? That's the only thing that's left to fix about this. And she does give him that.
And he does give up the information, right? He uses the last bit of life left in him to betray. I'm not going to say betray because it's not a betrayal, but to give up the person who kills him, right? And like, honestly, like, nothing better. If you know, and this is the thing, like Grendel has compelled everyone because she thinks that she is safe. She thinks she has fried their mind so badly that there's no information there. And even if the healing was accomplished, they couldn't give anything away. So the fact that he has the presence of mind and the ability to fight back after that incredible compulsion, healing, and to give up that, I mean, that's a huge triumph for this boy, even though his tragically is going to dies from this.
It suggests that he was an incredibly like strong-willed, very present, lot of personality kind of person that like even being that hollowed out, like there was a part of him that was like, fuck you, and able to just, like hold on to like, I know the place I went. I know where I was last myself. I know the address of the building where I lost everything. Like, it's so tragic.
It also helps make you less angry about Natrim's Barrow, right? Because if everyone's been compulsed like this boy, you're like, okay, well, maybe wiping out all those people wasn't necessarily quite as insane as it felt on the surface. Because if everybody's either Grendel's allies, or people who are treated like this, like, yeah, they all deserve death at this point.
Right. If you could fix your brain to think that what Nyneave did to this child was mercy and was healing, then can you really say that Natrim's Barrow was a crime? Like, are those not mutually exclusive stances to hold? Because, that's how Grandal operates. We know that from her. We know that from Rand. We know that from other characters. Like, this is what Grandal does. She takes away the person permanently and puts in what she wants. And that's it. And
all of her servants are like that. All of her servants are famous, pretty people who she's mind fucked.
And like the whole estate, like the entire palace she's in is a self-contained estate. Hundreds of people, but like presumably none of them have the capacity to harm her or her cause, which means that they have no personality-ness left, which means that being released back to the wheel is the most merciful thing you can do. And that is bleak as hell. And like you don't know that for sure, not down to every single stable boy at the very edge of the estate. You don't know that for a fact, but you do, but you don't, but you do. It's messy. And
then when Nyneave tries to kind of blame him for it, I love his speech here.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm just going to read it. Should I suffer for them all, Nyneave? He asked quietly, rising, face still half in the darkness. Lay this death at my feet if you wish. It will just be one of many. How many stones can you pile on a man's body before the weight stops mattering? How far can you burn a lump of flesh until further heat is irrelevant? If I let myself feel guilt for this boy, then I would need to feel guilt for the others, and it would crush me. So good. Because it is. It's just this piling on of guilt of just everyone who's died for him. Everyone, which like, that he has to let it go in the last battle. That's the whole thing that lets him come back and rise, is he lets people be their own heroes. He lets go of these people who have died for him. Right.
Guilt is not what anyone needs. It's not what anyone needs from you. Guilt is not going to help the situation at all. And he's right. To feel guilty for every single person who died would crush him. It is crushing him. He does feel guilt for all of them. And that's why he's so defensive about how, no, I'm not feeling guilty. Because, like, but you are. To truly put that down and to not feel guilt would not be to be defensive about it.
And to have emotions other than anger, to be sad, right? The weight has crushed his ability to be sad. It has crushed his ability to feel guilt. He no longer has those emotions. He has nothing but anger left.
And that's not good. You need to be able to have all the emotions and like go through the whole range and feel all of them and pass through the experience, metabolize the emotions. Like you can't just be angry forever. It won't work.
No, and he's like, no, listen, I'm going to die soon, so I can suppress all of my emotions until then. And then I'll be dead, and it won't matter. So I don't see what the problem is.
Which it's very unsustainable for you to plan to just leave the world in the maximum chaos as you leave, right? Like he puts so much potential energy really high up on a shelf and then just drops it as an act of dying and is like, you guys will figure it out when like the bomb shatters on the floor. It's like, you didn't have to put all of the stuff way high up on a shelf in a precarious position. That's what you're doing. You're making everything so much more precarious than it has to be by doing this, because the fallout is going to be so much worse than if you could just like cry for once. Like, God.
And then here's some proto Sanderson. This story that Tam tells him. When I was much younger, Tam told me a story he'd heard while traveling the world about the boy who, right? Sanderson tells the story of Fleet in the Stormlight Archive, someone who runs and runs and runs and doesn't stop until they die, right? And that's an inspirational story in Stormlight Archive that reminds me a lot of this one. Instead of running, it's climbing the peak, but this idea that like you get to the end, the end of your journey is where you die, and you want to use up all your energy to achieve that end.
This is not a healthy way to look at the world. Also, I just have so many, as a person obsessed with high altitude mountain climbing for a bit, it's a very silly story. There's some mountain that you can't come back down from. Like, blind people have summited Everest without supplemental oxygen. So, shut up.
But Dragon Mount is so much higher. Like, it's to the point where, like, there is zero oxygen on Dragon Mount. You would die if you were, like, Rand is like, I would die if I wasn't at the top using my power to keep me, alive.
Well, that's because he didn't spend months acclimating.
Fair.
Like, you can't go up to Everest. I mean, it's called the death zone for a reason. But, like, also, you have to spend weeks acclimating from base camp up through Camp 1, Camp 2, Camp 3, Camp 4.
Oh, I'm just saying the Dragon Mount makes Everest look like a tiny little hill, right? Like, canonically, Dragon Mount's a lot bigger.
Yeah,
and
and I don't know that I buy that.
And way outside the atmosphere.
No. Is there a canonical measurement? Is there a canonical measurement for Dragon Mount? I remember we did math once and it came out really, really bad. And it can't go out of the atmosphere because then the weather around it would be way different.
I will read this from Reddit. The peak of Dragon Mountain is easily in the death zone, which is 26,000 plus feet. It rises well above the clouds. What Encyclopedia cites the height of the peak is roughly 10 miles, although there's no citation for that. There's a discussion where people tried to use the shadow length to calculate the height and came away with something in the range of 30 to 50,000 feet, depending on the exact distance between Tarvallen and Dragon Mount and the exact latitude of each. So,
Jesus.
It could be up to twice the height. What's Everest?
Everest is, 27 something? I can never remember. I'm bad with numbers.
29,000 feet.
Yeah. One of those cool numbers.
So basically, looking at the shadow, it's Everest or taller height.
Okay, well, if it's significantly taller than Everest, I guess maybe his story is right, but...
Whatever document I look at kind of puts the lower Everest as the lower limit of Dragon Mount.
All right. Well, okay. Some people definitely have gone up Everest and come back down without supplemental oxygen. That's happened many times. Literally blind people have done it. But if it's significantly taller than Everest, then I guess Tam's story tracks pretty good.
It's the tallest waterfall in the world.
Also, I think it's hilarious that he tells us this whole story, and it, is clearly giving us hints of veins of gold, but like he doesn't hike up the mountain; he uses traveling, so it doesn't count. And that's why he's able to come back down. Like because he literally didn't hike up the mountain. It's like you fucking cheated. You fucking hacked the Kobayashi Maru. Like, fuck you, dude.
But for him, the climb is going into the Dark One's den, not going up onto the mountaintop.
Yeah, sure. But it's still funny. He travels to the top of the mountain that supposedly kills you if you go up there. Like, the only people who ever get up here are people who die, except people who travel.
Well, and it's standing upon his own grave, right? There's a lot of, symbolism there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's, back in the same spot he killed himself in and, is contemplating doing it again, right? Like, there's a lot of full circle stuff with that.
Also, I'm pretty sure that there's a depiction of active vents and fumaroles and maybe even a lava lake at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, there's supposed to be. Yeah, there's a caldera and everything at the top. Yeah,
and I'm like, that is definitely a magic mountain because that doesn't seem likely with a mountain that tall. I don't think you'd have that, but it's a magic mountain. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and he goes on about this for a couple pages, it feels like. I don't need to hold back. I don't need to salvage anything of this beaten up soul of mine. It's more like your beaten up body. But yeah, I know that I must die.
It's giving me strong Frodo and Sam at the opening of Return of the King, Sure. Where they're just really torn up and really badly beaten up, but then the last leg of the journey. Well, and where Sam is like, well, we got to make sure to ration our stuff so we still have food to get back. And, Frodo just does oh, Sam.
Yeah, it's like, no.
But Sam's hope is the reason why they fucking get home. The fact that Sam always has that plan, always has that hope in his heart is core to why they get home.
And also it's why Rand survives, right? He has that core hope and that lets him go into another body. Like his body dies, but he gets to survive because of his link to Moradin and his willingness to not give up, right? Because that's why Moradin dies. Like Moradin gives up and goes into the dying body.
Right. And I mean, you can see that fierceness here because, right, Nyneave is like, you need to think about contingencies. You need to have a little more Samwise Gamgee in your monitors. And he's like, don't fucking tempt me with that. I can't deal with being tempted by that, which again, it says a lot about how tempted he is by that. It says a lot about how important that is to him, that he would want that if only he let himself.
Well, remember, that was one of his 3 questions. How do I beat the Dark One and survive, right? He doesn't really talk much about that last part, but he does ask, how do I beat the Dark One and survive? And the answer is, to live, you must die, is the answer they give him. And so he's like, well, fuck, I guess I have to die. But we all know, right, his body has to die, but he gets to live on in Moradin's body.
Which is so annoying.
Min's fallen asleep because she's been up all night with books. Pulling all-nighters, trying to figure out how to beat the Dark One.
Yeah. And Nyneave also like totally kind of, sort of, lets the cat out of the bag, right? She's like, I did this so you would trust me. She's just it's like when you explain the joke and it takes all the humor out. It's like, does it pull down the trustworthiness if you say why you did it, or is the added transparency a further reassurance?
But it's very Nyneave, right? It's like, this is why I'm trying to manipulate you. I know, Nyneave. I know that's how you're trying to manipulate me. That's fine.
Right, yeah. It's like, you, Nyneave, are not doing subterfuge well. We know why you're doing this. Like, and he reassures her that he does, in fact, still trust her. She still does rank highest on the trustometer. Even as everyone is getting devalued, she still leads the pack. And he puts in the perspective that Cadsuane only cares about him essentially as the Dragon Reborn, and Nyneave, cares about him as Rand al'Thor. And I find it annoying how she's like, Cadsuane only cares about how I fit into her plans. It's the same criticism I've had of him with respect to Egwene, being like, yeah, her plans are for you to save the world. It's okay to be a piece in her plan when her plan is literally for you to fulfill your destiny, saving the fucking world. Like, that shouldn't be a mark against her. But also, I do get it that, like, Nyneave is more concerned with Rand, the human being. I mean, she wants them to save the world, but, like, she's a much more direct kind of person. She sees saving the world as having him maintain his humanity, right? Like, that's her approach.
And to survive.
To seek to survive, right? It's if you don't, like, she understands without all the academic study that Min is engaged in, that in order for Rand to survive, in order for Rand to save the world, he has to be the kind of person who wants to survive. Like, she gets that at a fundamental level because she just knows people, because she's good to Rivers people or whatever. But yeah, I like that Min has been studying so hard that she can't really stay up on purpose because she's exhausted. It's like, yeah, that's right. Because when she's not, getting reviled for being a sexy lamp, she's actually like doing some pretty intense research.
Which leads to both the breaking of the seals and how they use the Kalendor to take over Moradin, right? Those are two really important things that she figures out pretty much for Rand.
Right, yeah. Which that second one really affects Nyneave too. That's part of why Nyneave goes into the pit with him, is because he needs two women that he trusts, and he trusts Nyneave. Yeah, Min figures that out. Min makes it all happen, and it's only because she does the very not page turning activity of reading, which literally is page turning. But you know what I mean. What I mean.
You know what's not page turning? Watching someone turn pages.
Very much so. Very much so. It's not being a sexy lamp. It's just doing the thing that does not play well on screen.
Doing the hard work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very unsexy, actually. Doing the hard work.
In a lot of cases, yeah. No, and so often in fantasy, like, what makes magic so fun is that, like, they don't have to do the hard work. They can just magic it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I always love Fantasia and, like, the mops going nuts, right?
Oh, hell yeah. God, I love
like
Fantasia.
that, like, oh, yeah. Magic is just not having to do chores, and it turns out, no, you're supposed to use it for, like, more special things. And that was the whole lesson of Fantasia, is, like, magic is not supposed to be used for mundane things like mopping. All right, I think on that note, anything else?
I'm ready to do the readout. He left her then. The flickering table lamp finally gave out, leaving only the one on the table. Rand had surprised her again. He was still a wool-headed fool, but he was a surprisingly self-aware one. How could a man understand so much, yet still be so ignorant? And why couldn't she come up with an argument against what he'd said? Why couldn't she make herself yell at him that he was wrong? There was always hope. By surrendering that most important emotion, he might make himself strong, but risked losing all reason he might have to care about the outcome of his battles. For some reason, she couldn't find words for the argument. Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.